Hello, my name is Aaron Price. I am the CEO of TechUnited New Jersey. Welcome to our discussion today. We are live with some very special guests to talk about how the New Jersey tech community can help New Jersey, and specifically how we've already helped and can continue to help the New Jersey Pandemic Relief Fund. So I've got a few guests with me here. We have First Lady of New Jersey, Tammy Murphy. Thanks for joining us. Rick Thigpen, an SVP at PSEG, and the CEO of the New Jersey Pandemic Relief Fund and chairman of the board of the New Jersey Food Bank, Josh Weinreich. Thank you all for joining us today. Really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
Normally, if we had more time and a live audience, we would encourage the entire audience to sing happy birthday to one of our guests today. So instead, I'm just going to personally extend a very happy birthday and our gratitude for you joining us, First Lady. So happy birthday. I think it's a real reflection of your dedication to, not only be working on the fund, but to, on your birthday, join us in the day after a major storm hits New Jersey. So we really appreciate that. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sure it's a national holiday somewhere, but here it's not.
So let's dive right into what is a very acute need around the state. And I want to ask you the first question, which is why start the fund, and what are you seeing around the state as some of the critical need?
Sure. Well,
that's to you, First Lady.
Okay, great. Thank you. So listen, started the fund because we felt, Phil and I were talking back in March, we had been watching this pandemic build across the world and seeing the absolute need in so many areas around the globe, and realized that we had better be prepared here in New Jersey. So really started to try and fill in the gaps and to help provide support for the nonprofits on the ground, providers who were clearly going to experience a surge. So I would say that's really why we started it, or why I started it. And the second part of the question was, did you say how? So tell me the second part. Was it?
Yeah, where the pandemic's affected all of us in different ways. Many of us haven't left our neighborhoods and homes for quite a while. And I think you have a unique perspective on what's going on around the state. So what are you seeing?
Sure. Let me just say, first of all, about this fund, this has been an incredible outpouring. There's been an incredible outpouring of support, not only by those who helped build this from the very beginning. We had three really big donors who stepped up at the outset, and that was Ray Chambers, the Overdeck Foundation, and then the David Tepper Foundation, alongside many corporates. But I will tell you, that the outpouring of support, to date, we've managed to raise a lot of money, but the really most heart-rending piece of this, perhaps the silver lining, is the way all of the corporations, the foundations, the individuals, and those who are on this call with us even today have just come together so seamlessly and worked so intensely hard on behalf of so many people across the state.
Yeah, I know it's been truly the Jersey for Jersey tagline is the effort. I think you're seeing a lot of the rallying of New Jerseyans around the state who want to help one another. We've formed this great relationship between TechUnited New Jersey and PSEG to help bring technology solutions to the forefront, to help build a better future of work, to build equitable solutions for residents. And so, Rick and I individually, and certainly the organizations, have built a really fantastic relationship. And so, Rick, I'm curious, what made you turn to us, in your involvement as a board member with the fund? What made you think of TechUnited as a potential resource as some problems emerged?
Well, it was a combination of things, Aaron, and certainly knowing you was one of the elements. So when Tammy and then Josh first approached me in public service about providing some logistical help to help them distribute in-kind donations, we began a research project and found some really daunting tasks to think about this in the traditional fashion: the need for storage space, the legal liability of taking possession of goods and giving them to other people, the transportation expenses, the need for bureaucracy. And we started to recognize they had a real need, but the way we were thinking about it was not going to work. And I began to think about innovation. And because I knew you, I recognized that talking to you about, could you think outside the box in a way that I am not capable, and help us solve a real problem to help make the Pandemic Relief Fund go even better than it's going already. And it turned out I was right. And I'm very appreciative that we were able to get TechUnited involved in helping us solve a problem that we had, and really come up with a solution that didn't involve a bureaucracy and all kinds of expenses to make it happen.
So let me just shed some light on exactly what that solution is, because I think it's really important that people understand what we're able to accomplish here. So Rick shared with us this need around donating for specific supply needs.
So
and
Josh is certainly better to give more detail.
Sure.
It's certainly about, diapers and feminine products. But beyond that, people were coming to Josh apparently with all kinds of in-kind donations. So and they were also coming to the First Lady with all kinds of needs. So there was needs out there and there were resources out there. So how do you get the resources out there into the hands of the people who needed them is where it started for me. And then obviously Josh was the person to talk to. So I think he can probably add a lot more to that.
Sure. Yeah, Josh, perhaps you could shed some light on exactly the problem that the fund was facing. And then we can share a little bit more about how we solved it and where people can take action today.
Sure. I think that, what we're really focused on most intently is trying to connect resources with need. There is a tremendous amount of need in general with low-income households, but the most vulnerable have been hit particularly hard, as we know, by this pandemic. So what we're really trying to do is to come up with all needs that we have to find ways to help those most in need. And it's, part of the challenge there is to look at where there are gaps, because there are so many amazing, relief organizations that do cater to these urgent needs. And being able to know when those organizations need critical support, and also finding populations and specific needs that fall outside of those relief efforts is really critical. So that really is, I'd say, our biggest challenge, and it's open-ended. And I'll maybe just continue. In this case, when Rick was brainstorming and saying, well, what can we do? We were doing a bunch of needs assessment, and we were just, asking people. We did Survey Monkeys. We're asking the EDs of many relief organizations what's happening on the ground. And one of the areas, food is an obvious place to look. And it's an area that critical need needs to be addressed immediately. But in talking to those organizations, we also asked, because there was a lot of awareness there and support was on the way. And what we identified in this case was a number of things, one of which was diapers and feminine hygiene products. And there's always a shortage of those products in low-income families. And in the pandemic, there was also hoarding of those products, similar to toilet paper. And these are expensive products that are non-discretionary spend, that when times are tough, you still have to pay for them. And so it was one that we didn't have to overthink. This was such an obvious, critical need. And many feminine care products are distributed through the schools. When the schools are closed, that exacerbates the problem as well. So we put together, sort of Rick said, well, what comes to mind? And that jumped to mind. Pause there.
Yeah, no, that's great. And
hey, Aaron.
Yes.
Can I just say something? Josh
Absolutely.
is being really modest. He has a little bit of a background in that space, and he knew there was an urgent need, and he really got us all on board on that. And he's gotten some accolades recently for being smart enough to pursue those two areas. And I just want to make sure that he's taking the bow that he deserves. So I just want to make sure you know that.
I also understand
Well done,
he's compensated for the role.
That was the compensation right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That was my compensation.
Yeah, to be clear, it's a pro bono job for those of you watching. In fact, I think that represents a lot of what what the story is here, right? We have a government working with the private sector, working with the tech community, all of us coming together to see what we can do to help our fellow New Jerseyan. And to be clear, I want to give a special thanks to Jack Keck, who initially took the lead on the tech build for this project, and then to Mike Papetti of Opulent, who took over to build what is now, if you go to njprf.org and click on donate to specific needs, the TechUnited Response Group, which is this volunteer group of incredible people who just wanted to help, built for free this tool that allows you to donate in a crowdsourced way against specific needs, as Josh mentioned, specifically around diapers and feminine products right now, where we have somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think, $75,000 committed, and we're hoping to raise quite a bit more. But it's if you're watching this and looking for one thing to do, go to njprf.org and donate to one of those specific needs, because they're very real. So, First Lady, what do you expect will change with some of these needs? You know, if products were previously distributed through the school systems, and those are coming online in a variety of ways in the coming weeks, how do you think the needs will change, and what might people be able to do to support families around the state?
Listen, you know, like I said, I think one of the silver linings of this whole pandemic, and then the economic downturn, and then you add to that racial unrest, and then, oh, by the way, in the last 24 hours, a hurricane. I would say that the best part of everything is just seeing the overwhelming support across all areas, and I mean that. I mean, you know, we've managed to pull off not only raising a goodly amount of money, you know, basically nearly $38 million, but we've also managed to grant pledge. We have grants pledged to date of $18.6 million. So all of that is it's fantastic, but the needs are still there. And I would say that, you know, through this organization, we have been able to take a 35,000-foot approach to the entire state. We've looked at really focusing on the areas and those who are most vulnerable, and we've done that since day one. And it did not take some serious racial unrest across our state, our country, our world for us to understand that there are inequities, and those inequities exist. I will tell you that, you know, we all hope that everything we are doing is going to shift the conversation and enable a much more sustainable tomorrow. But, you know, it's really hard when a lot of children depend on food at school, when they're having to learn virtually. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle that we're still working out, but we are throwing some high heat at everything we do. And as you just said, not only is our CEO working pro bono, he himself gave handsomely to our fund, as has every single board member. And we are incredibly fortunate because to date and going forward, we anticipate that every single dollar that's raised goes directly out the door, because our administrative expenses have heretofore been underwritten by one donor and will going forward be underwritten by our board, I think, as a whole. So
that's really fantastic. You know, one of the things that we talked about discussing here is what more can the tech community do? And each of you in your own way said, we're not really sure. And I think that's a reflection on you're not exactly sure what the tech community can do. So I'd rather hear from you, what are some of the problems that you're facing so that this group of innovators might be able to think of solutions? And that could be in regards to the fund specifically, or potentially with back to school and childcare. Rick and I have spent a good amount of time talking about equitable solutions, but I'd love to hear what are other problems that you're facing around the state where this group of innovators might be able to lend a hand. That's an open question.
Josh, I think you should start that one.
Yeah, let me jump in, because what I really love, Aaron, what should be talked about is when we start talking about tech. When Rick was thinking, what can we do? It was nothing tangible or specific. As he said, he was just trying to look for ways, broadly to connect resource to need. And then he came to you, and you guys, we got together. And I will never forget your first question wasn't what's a tech solution, what is your technology needs. Your question was, how can we help? And that is so important and so powerful. And you had a number of people who had that same mindset. And that's what drives us in the Pandemic Relief Fund. It started with Tammy's leadership. She was only interested in those who are passionate about wanting to help. And that's the only requirement to be on this team. And you guys started there. I mean, as you know, we fumbled about a little bit because in a crisis, it's not obvious. It's not easy to be methodical about this need then that need. We really are trying to identify opportunities and fill them and then move on. And so that example is something, though, that I would suggest people should take note of, because it led to a number of tangible things, and I think it will lead to others. That mindset and that approach. The other thing on that is many people are thinking about how they can help, and they're looking for the best way, and it's not clear. And I just want to say, people who do really well with that problem is just do something. There's no perfect here, and there are many ways to help. And I see also that overthinking this can lead to paralysis. It's like sometimes the best solutions are right in front of you. Just the obvious thing doesn't require overthinking. So in pulling that together, that's how I approach. That's how Tech United approached this problem. And now we've got a couple of tangible things, and I'm guessing that will lead to others. Same approach, same one.
We're very proud to be associated with it. We're here to be representative and supportive to the tech community and the community in general around New Jersey. So we're very proud to have been associated with this. Rick, we spend a lot of time talking about solutions that build equitable or building equitable solutions. And I'm curious if you think that the pandemic and some of the fund relief has highlighted some of those issues, and where you think there might be opportunities for the community in general, and again, problems you're seeing there where the tech community might have a voice or an idea to solve.
Well, a couple of things. There is absolutely no doubt that the pandemic has highlighted pre-existing inequities in our society in so many different ways that have been really emphasized by the murder of George Floyd and what's gone on in our country afterwards. I really tip my hat to our First Lady as well as to Josh, in that they are on this topic. They understand the importance of equity, and the Pandemic Relief Fund is doing a great job at thinking about it and taking action towards it. But having said that, Josh, Aaron, I'm sorry, there is absolutely no doubt that inequities are a really serious problem in our society. And the pandemic has in one way done us a favor to recognize the difficulties for all of us by allowing those inequities to continue. And I recognize there are some Americans who are slow to get this message, but there are lots of Americans who are beginning to recognize that, in fact, leaving these inequities alone are really going to help harm our society, so to speak. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the lessons we are learning. There are so many levels of people being impacted on this devastatingly who don't have economic means to respond to it. And it's really, to me, proving to be quite a challenging subject. And the Pandemic Relief Fund has done a great job of making me think harder about these inequities, how to get young people to go to school, how to get young people daycare so their parents can go to work, how to deal with people who don't have the same access to health care as others, how to help people who aren't documented citizens, but who can still be spreaders of the pandemic, how to deal with the fight over health care in the middle of a pandemic. So enormous challenges. I really do commend the Pandemic Relief Fund for being alert to the challenges and taking a leadership on how to respond to them. And I'm thinking that we're all going to learn some lessons as we go through this experience together.
And you're also, not to get too far off topic here, but I know that you're, I believe, chairman of the PSEG Foundation, and PSEG's made a commitment as well towards equitable solutions. Is that right?
Yes, I can't be prouder of helping move my company into the future as well. We are doing a Powering Equity and Social Justice initiative that I'm extremely proud of. That a public service has at its core a commitment to make New Jersey a better place. Our state is really deeply burdened with inequities, ones that when you do a little research, actually shock you about what's going on in New Jersey. This is not a state that was a part of the Confederacy and you might think would be, burdened with those racial issues of the past. But there is absolutely no doubt that inequity is a big challenge in New Jersey. And if public service can play some role in helping power our state towards recognizing that those inequities are bad for our state and that social justice is the way forward, I'm going to be extremely proud of having been an officer of public service and helping make that happen. And I'll be extremely proud to see my company continue to do the thing that made it great, which is help make New Jersey a better place by addressing that issue. And it's an issue that touches all of us.
Agreed. It's a great commitment. Tammy, I know we're moving into a second phase of the fund, but I was hoping you could share, you alluded to this earlier about some of the financial distributions, but some of the successes and recipient organizations in the first phase of the fundraising for the Pandemic Relief Fund.
Sure. So we, as of the end of July, I would say we had raised $38 million. Of the $38 million that we raised, 28% came from corporations, about 32% came from foundations, and to my great joy, 38% has come from individual donors. And that takes me to another point I just want to throw out there, and that is that we have over 57,500 donors who have contributed to this fund, which you consider we've been around for, 5 months now. That's a really extraordinary number of individuals who have come through. And that doesn't mean these are people who are giving major gifts. These are people who are having T-shirt competitions and lemonade stands and photography competitions and asking that the birthday money be given to the fund. I mean, this is an incredible outpouring of support. So in that respect, that gives me great joy. We've had donations come in from every county in the United States, every county in New Jersey, every state in the United States, and from 11 international countries. So we are really fortunate. We have spent the first part of the kind of phase one working on primarily the first piece of our efforts went to food security. We gave out nearly 180 grants in the area of food security. And that was the direct result, as Josh had referenced earlier, of our doing our own surveys and trying to understand what the needs were on the ground over 30, 60, and 90 days. So we touched every single county through that, which is fantastic. We secondarily worked in the area of medicine, telemedicine, and we supported the health hubs across the state as they tried to provide for the most vulnerable, those being whether they were homeless, pregnant women, or people who were drug addicted, and that was really an important group to hit. We have another very large group that we have touched, and it's come out recently, is that we helped provide direct assistance to undocumented among us, those who pay taxes and yet they have been left behind by all of the federal support that has been shared across our country. And we were really, really fortunate that we had one restricted donation that came in that helped us mobilize even more. And we have been able to give out nearly $4.5 million in direct aid to those living at 200% or less of the federal poverty level. And those are just three areas, and Josh is welcome to touch on more, but there's been many other pieces to this puzzle that we have been working on, but those are kind of three big ones that have taken up a lot of time and energy to date.
Yeah. Josh, anything else you want to highlight from the first phase of the fund?
No, I think that really captured the first phase really well.
Well, we get quite a few people who, certainly in response to announcing this discussion and in other capacity, want to help out. And often they have an app or a product in-kind donation. It would be helpful if we could clarify for people, are you interested in those kinds of donations? If so, what's the best way to get in touch? If not, I think people would respect that, but we get quite a bit of that through us. I'm sure you get a lot of that directly, but what do you need and what don't you need, and what's the best way for people to get in touch?
I don't know the answer to a specific, app or, I think what we can do is to keep highlighting and raising awareness of where the problems are, and people who can help us address that and be more efficient is really where we can use technology. One of the things we have to do is try to, because this is a very, fluid environment, as you can imagine, and, being innovative and trying to pay attention is helpful, but the circumstances change so rapidly that when you're busy looking at a program sometimes to implement, by the time you're going to implement, the need has moved. So I think technology and information is absolutely essential to anticipating where are the problems, and we know where the problems are, but there's also a lot of help. So it's finding the places where there really is a deficit, and that is that's part science and part art, and I think technology could play a big role there.
For those who may be watching, first of all, we're live across a variety of platforms on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter via Periscope. If you have questions, drop them into the comment area on your respective platform, and we will we'll bring them up if they're appropriate. But for those who are watching who may actually need help, Tammy, can you point people in the right direction on some of the resources in case they're not aware, so that they realize what might be available to them throughout the state?
Well, see, I think that where I would answer you on that, Aaron, is I would tell you in the first phase of our fund, we were looking at urgent critical needs, and we were really not only focusing on shoring up food security and the health and medicine, like I just talked about, but also we responded to, I think, nearly 900 online grant applications. We have an ear to the ground. We're looking at all those organizations, the 470 different organizations who are on the ground who actually receive funding from us are actually now going to be giving us a report card, like a 90-day report card. So we are staying current on what their continuing needs are and how they are evolving to make sure that they are going to move to the next level and try and not only deliver services, but deliver services and support in a way that's going to hopefully help whoever their clients might be move from needing those resources to getting to a better place, as opposed to just continually supporting them and keeping them in that tough spot. Not to say that our partner organizations are not fantastic and aren't doing great work, but we are holding ourselves and those who work with us to a really high standard now, that we are saying, okay, we understand that that's what the service you've been delivering, but is there some really bold, innovative, something that's really an idea that you've wanted to do, and in terms of delivering your services or trying to address a particular need that you have not to date been able to support financially? We're really hoping that we are going to be the ones who are going to help move the needle and just really take us to a better place going forward. The list of the organizations to whom we have given money, there are 470. So at the risk of stating one and leaving out, 469, I don't want to start singling out the ones who are my favorites. So I will not do that. But I will tell you that you can read about every single organization we've supported to date on our website.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Hey,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, the floor is yours.
I want to connect something that Rick said and something that Tammy did. Rick pointed out that the vulnerable populations in the state were vulnerable long before the pandemic. And there are systemic problems and that get addressed in varying degrees. And so now that there is a heightened awareness of critical need, what I think the hope is that we find solutions that don't just get us back to where we were, but that really help to put us in a better place. And what Tammy did, which was, I think, just by instinct, when she coined the Jersey for Jersey event that we had and the name, it was a great way to raise awareness and bring people together. But it specifically engaged the community to do something for their neighbors. That is something that transcends this pandemic. That is life altering. And that is part of where the solution will come to finding these long-term solutions. There's going to be no easy fixes. So we know that. And it's going to take constant attention of people trying to bring the resources and putting them where the need is. So I love, right in front of us, what just is happening here is the magic. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it is happening in our state, and it really needs to be, we need to call attention to it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I couldn't, in getting involved with what was the New Jersey Tech Council and now having rebranded as TechUnited New Jersey, one of the reasons we did that is because I have found that the magic of this community is when we unite and when we actually get together. A council is a body that convenes and sort of tells others what to do versus bringing people together and seeing what unfolds among us. And so that's exactly what we've seen happen here with the various stakeholders we have around the table and the solution that this community rallied around. I heard from Rick that there was this need, debriefed with Josh and the team, started posting online. My first post was on LinkedIn, and I had 60 people raise their hands to say, what can I do to help? Let's get on a call tomorrow. And not long after we launched this site. So I'm enormously proud of that. And I hope that you'll all see us as a continued vehicle for other problems that come up, because I know the tech community is ambitious and eager to help out with some of these things. Rick, we talked about the opportunity for innovation in New Jersey and how it could play a role in helping those affected by the pandemic. What do you see as the longer term opportunity for the innovation community to actually have an impact here?
Oh man, first off, that opportunity is absolutely enormous. Part of the fact is dialogue is key, because we are burdened with not understanding all the things that are possible through innovation. But we should not forget, we're sitting here now talking via this webinar, and a national communications network was first established by Bell Labs right here in New Jersey. Everybody who's listening is powered by a computer that was first, which is powered by electricity, which was created by Thomas Edison right here in New Jersey. Aaron, I know you're wearing those patent leather shoes I see you wear all the time. That was a great invention of Seth Boyd, who's got a statue on Broad Street in Newark, and who's also in New Jersey and a great inventor, right? So innovation is such a big deal, and you don't know what it is until it's brought to you. People like myself don't know those innovation possibilities, but hopefully some of us are smart enough to talk to people like you and create the dialogue and create so you understand needs, and the innovators can help us find new solutions, which can make a big difference. And don't forget, Thomas Edison, the great man he was, think of the economic activity generated by the invention of recorded sound and the light bulb. And he's the inventor of the industry in which I work, electricity. And he also invented the distribution system. So innovation has an enormous history in New Jersey, and the possibilities are enormous. And just what we've done with you so far is a sign that innovation can really play a big role in more things than we recognize. And innovation is going to be a part of the future of public service. So I'm also very pleased to have us associated with you. Not everybody thinks of regulated monopolies and innovation in the same sentence. And it's nice to change people's thinking a little bit. And it's nice to see that as we attack the challenge of climate change, that innovative solutions will be a part of delivering even better services to the homes of New Jersey. I'm sitting here now after a storm, and I'm listening to people being very upset about their power out. Years ago, being out of power for 5 days was not that unusual, but those expectations have far changed. It's going to take innovators to help us meet that expectation of our consumers and the public, because people really depend upon electricity. I'm a parent now, again, and parents know that young people without electricity are driving them crazy. So they drive us crazy to get the electricity back on. So I can't say enough about the importance of innovation. Can we be smart enough to find the partnerships? Can people like public service be wise enough to recognize that we don't have all the answers, and that we can do a better job for the people of New Jersey in the future by using innovation, and by people like yourself who have ideas that we don't have being partners with you? So I can't say enough about the role of innovation. And just what we've done with Josh and the Pandemic Relief Fund together just reminds me that there's enormous potential together by being partners. It's almost like Josh talked about social justice, by talking to each other and working together, how much better all of our lives can be. And how about that model?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an accident that we ended up in this room virtually together. And I want to give Tammy and the governor credit on creating an environment that encourages innovation.
Yes,
I've been involved in the tech community for a decade in New Jersey, and this kind of thing didn't really happen before. And other neighboring states had these communities built and worked together much more cohesively, and that's changed dramatically. I really do mean to give the governor a lot of credit there, because it's encouraged a PSEG to come to the table. We have other partnerships with TechUnited that will do other good things for the state that are going to make a difference. In this case, with PSEG, for those who aren't aware, we're giving away a $50,000 cash prize to the most interesting clean tech startup at our annual Propellify event, which is in October.
Good job.
Excuse me.
That's really important, because hopefully these innovators are going to give us new ideas to help make energy efficiency easier to bring to everybody's home, to help us reduce our energy usage, to help us fight climate change by using less, because we're Americans, so we're energy hogs. We use much more than other people do. This challenge is more than symbolic. It could potentially be enormously important, and maybe you're going to find the next Thomas Edison for us if we're lucky.
We hope so. We've talked a lot about why shouldn't and can't the next Google, Facebook, etc. We've had the Bell Labs of the world, which are still fantastic bedrocks in New Jersey, yes. And I think we're long overdue for the next round of several companies like that. And I hope things like this, these kinds of partnerships will inspire entrepreneurs to do that. It's worth noting maybe one of the few upsides of the pandemic. I won't scare you with it, but I can be business up top and wear shorts on the bottom for things like this, and nobody knows. So I happen to actually be barefoot at the moment. I'm sure you love.
Thank you for that detail, Aaron.
Well, since you told me on the shoes, I want to let you know.
Yeah.
Tammy, I wonder, what are other needs that you see might be right around the corner, right? There are people who hopefully will donate cash to this immediately. Yep. We'll surface other problems as we see them. But what do you want people thinking about after the summertime, and to be aware of, like, this might be something that could help my fellow New Jerseyan?
Listen, if you're talking explicitly about technology, there are needs everywhere you look, and I hardly feel compelled to tell you this specifically, Aaron, but whether it's contact tracing, I mean, being able to get contact tracing onto our machines, or whether it's e-commerce and contactless payments. I mean, that's another piece of this puzzle that really, I think we all are trying to figure out. Every day when I go and buy things, I'm now finding it's a lot easier. But there's a lot of small businesses out there that need a lot of support in this space. And look at us. I mean, Josh, our CEO, and I met because we're remotely working, and that's another space that's going to be ongoing for a long time. Yes, Josh and I met in person. I think we've now met twice in person, right, Josh?
Yeah.
But we talk to each other, 10 times a day at least. And then, I think the most obvious gaping divide at the moment is just the digital divide, and that is something that we've all seen, and we know that school's getting ready to start again, and what does that imply, and what are the needs in that space? I could say more. Telemedicine. I mean, there are so many urgent needs at the moment, but those are all in the technology area. We also have, childcare is hanging out there as a really big problem, because people who can't get back to work, what are they going to do? We are going to continue to see needs for women and minority-owned businesses. Obviously, that's a sector we all need to support, and we should support. Our small businesses are some of our biggest providers and are our engine across New Jersey. But I could list many areas. Aaron, I'm not trying to be difficult in that front, but I will just tell you that as you look over your shoulder, quote a really good friend of ours, I'm honored to say, John Bon Jovi, he just says, do what you can. And it really is do what you can. It doesn't matter how little it is, but just think about the next person over and how you can provide your neighbor with a virtual hug in whatever way you can do it, because that's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to give that virtual hug, and we're trying to bring it in person to the many across our state who really don't want to seek resources. They don't want to find themselves in that place. No one wants to be in that place. But we're trying to give them a little bit of a smile and a go fight win attitude, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Yeah, well, I think keep up the good work. I think it's worth mentioning, because you brought up a few programs specifically that we have partners that are working on. I want to make sure that the community is aware, which is a health tech alliance with Hackensack Breed Health, where Sandra Elliott and Bob Garrett have been fantastic partners who also are interested in fast tracking the right contract tracing tools and doing everything they can to obviously to fight this the pandemic. And with Verizon, we're soon to announce also a program that will help small businesses. So, this theme of us all working together and big companies trying to help small is very real and alive and well. And I'm proud that, Tech United and all of us can be a part of trying to move that forward. I think, Tammy, you can appreciate that with my mom watching, and she's asked a question. I probably should have gone to it first, but she's been encouraging me to think about how Tech United could play a role specifically in the digital divide. The issue with connectivity is very real. The issue with access to hardware is very real. Is there anything that any of us could do, especially as schools reopen, to try to move that forward and help our neighbors?
I would say absolutely. I think that I would like Josh to address this in some way, but I think that, our fund is trying to understand right here and now how we can help move the needle in this space specifically. And we are trying, it's literally now. So two things. One is, I would say, reach out and contact us. If you want to help us, we need all the help we can get, because we are mighty, but we are few, and we want all good partners out there to join us. And I also, since I have the power of the mic, I just want to say, Mom, you've done a great job raising Aaron, and he seems to be an incredibly sophisticated, thoughtful, and a very good citizen in our world, and that's what we need, are good citizens. So thank you.
And that's the end of the show. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate that. That certainly makes my mom proud. I really appreciate you saying that, barefoot or otherwise. But I just want to make sure we clarify one piece of this, because we do get a lot of requests. I imagine you do as well. When you say anyone who wants to help, I know you mean cash. If people have other means of helping, whether it's their own employees and resources, can you be a little more specific there? Because sure. I want to make sure you don't waste anyone's time or yours.
listen, I think that we are diving into this as we speak. Everyone knows that school is starting in 4 weeks. Everyone knows that there are needs not only in the Wi-Fi access space, but also in the actual devices. And so I would tell you that the fastest way to help is obviously to give money. But if you have some incredible resources in either of those two areas, then please reach out and let us know. I'm pointing to Josh. But we are determined to really fill in this gap.
Good. We lost your mic there just for a moment, but it does look like you're saying you pointed to Josh and reach out to the PRF, NJPRF.org. And by the way, help us create awareness. And the help us is pointed at the audience here. Whether you're donating or not, if you're posting about the fund in social media, you can help create awareness for others. Every dollar counts here. People are really in desperate need and need your help. So please do not, whether you can donate or not, but please do also spread the word on social media. That can make a very, very big difference. You never know who's listening. Josh, it looks like you want to jump in here. Any final thoughts before we close up?
I think we've covered a lot. I don't think we mentioned working with families facing eviction. It's an area that we're really focused on. And we just came out of, Tammy, Rick, and I, out of 2 hours of a meeting where we really, as a board, are really looking at the digital divide. We're listening to the state's commitment to addressing this, and we are looking for ways to not duplicate, but sometimes if we can speed a solution, it makes all the difference in the world. Time is really critical. So back to how you can help. We were very involved in helping to get Trenton, every family there that did not have Wi-Fi, but that had devices, to put that together. And it was a great collaboration with the superintendent district and our fund and the DOE to help put all these parties together. We're going to be looking for ways to leverage that and do it again. And we would invite partners to help us for volunteering, for money, for equipment, for ideas. And we will continue to raise awareness and make it easy for you to find us. But I also like the ideas. Everyone's thinking about big ideas. I'm watching this little thing go across the bottom. If you just think about easing someone's misery today, making their day a little bit easier so that their kid can have diapers, like, how great is that? That's a good place to start. Thank you.
It's a good place to start. I want to end on a positive note. And we're living in unusual and difficult times. So I'm hoping we can share a message of hope of where you think that we might be headed in a positive direction, and things that whether you've experienced in these workings or otherwise, just something hopeful that you've seen in your community or at your business. Rick, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I think that maybe blessings come in disguise, and in this case, maybe a very deep disguise in this pandemic. That if we all begin to recognize that our destiny is in common, that we are connected, and that we need to talk and work together, some very good things are going to happen. If we can recognize that innovation is one of the things that's going to make our future get better together, then something good will have come from this experience. If we are all now more aware of how these inequities are really eating away at the foundation of our society, then this experience has been a positive one. And I see those things happening. I see more and more people coming together, more and more people recognizing that our destiny is actually in common, whether we understand that or not, and that we are beginning to find solutions to different problems. I see us turning a corner. I've watched some political polling, and I see more and more Americans are recognizing that these divisions are not good for us. So maybe we're moving in the right direction together. I see more and more people wanting to chip in. Tammy just mentioned, I think it's over 57,000 people have given to the Pandemic Relief Fund. So people are beginning to understand that some common efforts are the way to make our society better. And I really see that as a positive experience. And I see corporate America and regular Americans working together to do something better. And so I see positive coming from that. And my mother used to always tell me, since today's Mother's Day, that blessings do come in disguise. And maybe I see that happening here. That's great. Josh?
Yeah, I really like what Rick said. I will tell you that in times like this of, real uncertainty and anxiety, there is power in when you find, by moving forward and doing something, right? Finding like-minded people who want to pitch in and help. And it is such a blessing rather than waiting for something to happen. When you realize that you can make something happen, I think it does bring hope, and I think that's really a positive thing that is available to all of us. So I encourage everyone to grab that opportunity.
Absolutely. And lastly, First Lady.
Listen, I would like to include all of the comments that both Rick and Josh have just said. The power of coming together, the power of really showing your true colors in times like this, it's really something to behold. I will tell you that everybody working on this fund and those who are affiliated with the fund, and that is the more than 57,500 donors, it's the artists, it's the children, it's the people on the street who are being helped, it's the testimonials we've gotten from people who are grateful and just saying thank you to their neighbors who are all of us around the state. And it's exposing, as Rick mentioned earlier, it's exposing, or it's not exposing, it's really highlighting the inequities across our state. This pandemic has done that. And maybe it's a tough lesson, but maybe it's a lesson nonetheless. And that's probably a silver lining to come out of all of this pain and suffering. But we do have a responsibility to one another, and we must continue to do everything by social distancing, by wearing a mask and washing our hands. We must continue to do that. We must do that. And that is something that's very simple. It's kind of like we all hated taking our shoes off when we went to the airport, and we now accept the fact that that's the world that we live in. This is the new world we live in. So we all have to be mindful and respectful of one another. And then I guess since I shared John Bon Jovi's quote, there's another John who I like to quote, and this is a man who did it all in his life. And the last quote by John Lewis was, "I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe." We all have to do that, the highest calling. Thank you, Aaron.
I can't tell you each how much I appreciate you joining us today. I think that's a really fantastic way to end. I think an area of hope for me is when Hurricane Sandy hit, the tech community sort of jumped in to do things on our own and raised a bunch of funds with something called Heal Hoboken, and there were some others around the state. This is a vastly different reaction where we're having government, the tech community, and corporations work together to see how we can help one another. And I see a lot of hope in that. And I see a lot of hope in that we have leaders like we have around the screen here today at these organizations. And I'm not just saying that because I like you all, but I genuinely mean it. It's clear you're all very dedicated to this effort. We're proud to be a part of it, and I really appreciate all the time you spent with us today. For those of you watching, if you're interested in getting involved with tech efforts in the future, go to techunited.co, contact us. We'll make sure on the next round of relief efforts that we put forth. If you'd like to help the fund, you can let us know, and we'll pass it along. I see some of you have already mentioned in the comments you're trying to do that. That's NJPRF.org. Please donate. Please spread the word. Go ahead, Rick.
And don't forget, if you have new ideas on how to do energy efficiency, join the Innovation Challenge.
That's right. Win 50 grand, no strings attached.
Yes,
that's right. And those things play a role in this. So, a better, cleaner future is a better economy, more jobs. It's good for New Jersey, and it's good for the planet. So we're very proud to be associated with all of you. So with that, we're going to close out, but I really appreciate it. Especially, First Lady among it the day after a major storm with everything else going on in the world. I really appreciate you spending time with us today. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, Rick. And thanks, Josh. See you soon.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday is right.
Thanks, everybody.